You don't mix white milk with chocolate milk and get half chocolate milk. When you ever see half chocolate milk? What kind of milk is this? It's half chocolate. Ain't no such thing as half chocolate. It's either chocolate or it ain't. It's either chocolate or it ain't. Everything is defined by the majority DNA. Everything is defined by the majority DNA. Let me take a sip. Let me take a sip and let's get into Blackface Drake today. And my brother Drake, you're probably tuned in. You're probably tuned in, brother. You will not be disrespected in this video. You will not be disrespected in this video. This video is not about disrespecting you. To all my biracial African brothers and sisters out there, to all my so-called mixed-race Africans, those of you who have European or other non-African parents, you will not be disrespected in the next 45-minute seminar. I didn't come here to disrespect you, but to challenge you. And also to make you understand that you are a member of the global African family. But you can use that privilege and you can lose that right by not identifying with your race. See, the situation that went viral all over the internet was the fact that Drake, one of the top hip hop artists of biracial, mixed African, Jewish ancestry, black father, white mother, from what I understand, years ago, he participated in a photo shoot, and I'm summarizing here, but years ago, he participated in a photo shoot where he actually allowed himself to be painted black-faced with the big red lips. A throwback caricature to the days of Jim Crow and the minstrel shows, which were born in the days of the Civil War, when white men dressed up like black people to imitate stereotypical and exaggerated forms of cultural expression of the enslaved Africans. It was a mockery and it was a disgrace. And as times went on, white people allowed black people to put black face on and big red lips. So what the whole purpose of the minstrel was to exaggerate the lack of humanity of African people. The whole purpose of the minstrels was to create a triviality out of black cultural expression by exaggerating it, animalizing it, and showing how impossible it was for black people to be humans, to be civilized. The whole purpose of the minstrels was to codify black people as an inferior race of beings. So when Drake put that blackface on, and he's not the first to do it, you had regular Africans who were not of mixed race who put on the blackface. So Drake was not the first to do it, but because he's a member of the hip hop generation, a movement created by blacks, and because he professes to be down with the culture and swaggerlicious, for Drake to do it, in the eyes of many people, it represented a significant contradiction, which led many to believe that he may have been worthy of being called a hypocrite. To be a representative of a black cultural expression, hip hop, but yet at the same time allow yourself to be abused or allow yourself to be used to abuse African people by going so far as to paint your face black and put on big red lips, thereby reinforcing the stereotype that black people are somehow animalistic, ignorant, and not worthy of being treated as equals. Now, I understand that Drake spoke to this situation, and I'm not even interested in dealing with him speaking to the situation. But what I do think this situation calls for is an open conversation on the politics of biracial Africans, because we are living in a time when America right now has an agenda to biracialize the entire Black America. America right now has an agenda to biracialize the entire Black America. They want everyone to look like Steph Curry. They want everyone to look like Mariah Carey. They want everyone to look like Klay Thompson. No disrespect to any of them. No disrespect to any of them. I'm dealing with the politics. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Why would a minority group want to increase the size of the majority group? Why would a minority group, white people, want to increase the numerical size of the people who already outnumber everyone else in the world, Africans? Why would they want to do that? Well, first of all, we have to look at the philosophy of white supremacy. We have to look at the classical foundations of white supremacy. And when you look at the classical foundations of white supremacy, they have always bred black people for their own purposes. Can I get an ashe? If you following me right now, give me a black fist. If you following me, if you understand where I'm going, give me a black fist. White people have always bred black people for their own purposes. Why are we surprised? This is nothing new. They have always bred black people for their own purposes. Even before slavery, when you study the Crusades, the Christian Crusades, the Islamic Jihad into Africa, when you study Alexander the Great, when you study Napoleon Bonaparte, you will find that they had soldiers in those armies who were responsible for the conquest of African peoples, Africans in the Caribbean, Africans in Africa, Australia, Central South Pacific, Central and South America. They had white soldiers whose job was to impregnate the black women. The white soldiers' job was to impregnate the black women, not because they wanted more black people. Genetics is the extermination of Africans. They didn't want more black people, but they needed more soldiers. They needed a numerical majority. And what do you do when you don't have a numerical majority and the women of your community have a problem getting, holding, and keeping babies? You do what? You reproduce with the oppressed woman. You take the black woman and you inject your evil serum into her, and she produces a biologically African child, but not an unapologetically African child. I said the black woman pregnant with the white man's seed will create a biologically African child, but not a psychological African child. So what you have is a baby who has the DNA of the mother, the dominant African DNA, but he has the psychological mind and conditioning and loyalty to the father. And loyalty to the father. And loyalty to the father. That's what's going on in America now. Let's create a virus amongst black people that will mutate and kill itself. Listen to me. They said we're going to create a cancer, a certain type of a people with a certain type of a mentality who will be able to destroy black people without white folks even being around. So they deliberately create the mixed race African as a weapon against the rest of us. They deliberately create the mixed race African as a weapon against the rest of us. But let me clarify. Because right now, some of my mixed race African brothers and sisters are saying to yourself, are you throwing me under the bus, Dr. Umar? I support you. I rock with you. No, I'm not, brothers and sisters. No, I'm not. I'm only throwing you under the bus if you are guilty of loyalty to the oppressor. I'm only throwing you under the bus if you refuse to accept your African racial origin. I didn't say you deny your mother. If your mother is white, that's your mother. You love her. If your father is white, that's your father. You love him. But you must also be clear politically that although this is my father, it's my father. He's your father, but he is not a member of our race. And this is where biracials get confused. This is where biracials get confused. This is where biracials get confused because what happens a lot of the confusion between the mixed race African and the unmixed African is the fact that the mixed race African wants their mother and father to be exempt. You want your mother and father and white brothers and sisters to be exempt from being included in with all white people, and we will grant no such exemption. We will grant no such exemption. I need my mixed race Africans to hear me. I need my mixed race African brothers and sisters to hear me, because I claim you. If you claim me, I claim you. It's that simple. I don't judge you no differently than I judge any other African. I don't judge you any differently than I judge any other African. It's a two-pronged question for me to vibe with you. Number one, are you biologically black? And number two, are you psychologically black? Do you identify with your race? And if there's any mixed race African out there who says, yes, I know I got a white mother. Yes, I know I got a white father. I love them. I respect them. But that's my personal business. That's my personal business. When it comes to the politics of liberation, I will stand shoulder to shoulder with Dr. Umar Johnson. If that's you, I have no problem with you. One of the greatest Pan-Africanists who ever lived. Two of the greatest Pan-Africanists who ever lived. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. Bishop Henry McNeil Turner. The first black chaplain in the U.S. Army. One of the first blacks elected to public office during Reconstruction. The black man who called the United States flag a filthy rag. The black man who said God was black. The first man to say God was black was of mixed race. So I don't have no problem with you having a white mom, white dad, because you're not responsible for how you get here. But I need biracial Africans to understand that you are obligated to live the same code as all other Pan-Africanists. And that code is: you do not date white. You do not lay white. You do not sleep white. You do not impregnate or be impregnated by white. You will marry black. You are obligated to the same code. And the fact that your mother is white or your father is white does not exempt you from being totally 100% committed to the freedom struggle. In other words, you have to develop the courage and the commitment. Mixed race Africans have to develop the courage and the commitment to tell mommy and daddy, I love you, but you are white. And because you are not a member of the African family, you cannot come to this meeting. Because you are not a member of the African family, you cannot participate in this struggle. Because you are not a member of the African family, I love you, but my love for you is personal. African liberation is political. And I cannot betray my people by letting you in, mommy and daddy, because although you love me, mommy and daddy, although you love me, there is no proof that you love all black people. Although you love me, white mom, white daddy, there's no proof that you love all black people. And because of that, I cannot risk the liberation struggle of my people because of my personal petty emotions about my mother and father. And that's facts. And that's facts. See, for Drake to put on that blackface, for Drake to put on that blackface, it suggests to some degree that he really did not recognize himself to be black himself. See, for a mixed race African to paint his face black, it says subconsciously that I'm a few degrees different from the rest of them. And that's the problem with the biracial consciousness, because it brainwashes mixed race Africans into thinking that they're not black, but at the same time, you'll never be accepted as white. So you end up living your whole life as a people in between, because you don't want to be what you are, and you'll never be accepted by what you want to be. And what I find so ironic, about, see, let me back up. So we talked about the two questions. Are you biologically black and are you psychologically black? That goes for you if you're mixed race. That goes for you if you're blue, black, purple. That goes for you if you're hot peanut butter. That goes for you if you're butter almond, if you're caramel, if you're mocha latte, if you're butter pecan, if you're syrup, if you're brown sugar. I don't care what complexion you are. You must be biologically and psychologically African. You must be biologically and psychologically African. And if you are both, I have no problem with you. If you biracial, you want to be in my course, but you better be biologically African and psychologically African, I will consider you. I will consider you. But the issue is we're dealing with the fact that you are split psychologically. Nobody's split about who you are but you. See, whenever America wants to recruit blacks against blacks, whenever America wants to recruit blacks against blacks, the first thing it does, and you can study your history, whenever white folk want to recruit black folks to be used against other black folk, they create a new racial category. Facts. Facts. Study history. In the 1970s, when African Puerto Ricans and African Cubans and Africans from Dominican Republic came to America, they didn't want to be labeled with African Americans. They were calling themselves white. Blue, black, purple Africans with nappy hair were showing up from Cuba and Puerto Rico, calling themselves white. Some of them still do it today. And America said you cannot call yourself white because you got to be Anglo-Saxon to be white. They didn't even let the Irish and the Jew and the Italian be white until 1940. So in 1970, the United States government created a new category for blacks called Hispanic. In 1970, the United States government created a new category for blacks called Hispanic. So anybody with African blood who was too ashamed to be black, I said anybody with African blood who was too ashamed to be black could call themselves Hispanic instead of African. And we still got a lot of African Puerto Ricans and Afro-Cubans who still want to call themselves white. They hate their black blood, but you practice in African religion. You hate your African heritage, but you practice in Ifa, and you practice in Santeria, and you practice in Palo, and you practice in Voodoo, and you practice in Lukumi. How the hell are you going to take our religion, but say you don't belong to us? Give us our religion back. Anybody in the Caribbean who practice an African religion and got a problem calling themselves African, give us our goddamn religion back and go with your oppressor. And go with your oppressor. Oh, yes, my brother. It is that simple. Oh, it's very simple. It is extremely simple. You are either with me or you are against me. It's very simple. This whole thing is very simple. The message to the biracial Africans is it's time for you to come on home and claim your heritage. Claim your great African divinity. And the reason why it's time for you to do that is because they will never accept you anyway. What I find most interesting about biracial Africans is you will go out of your way to let the world know that you are mixed race. You will go out of your way to let the world know you are mixed race. But you fail to understand that the white man has a one-drop rule. Listen to me, biracial Africans. Listen up. What the hell is a biracial African? See how they play these games? Half black. No such thing as being half black. African DNA dominates all of the DNA. Once you are mixed with us, you are us biologically. But I will never claim you until you become psychologically African. Ain't no half black. How you going to take dominant genes and mix it with recessive genes and get half black? If the gene is recessive, which means it cannot stand the power or resistance of the dominant gene, then the dominant gene takes over the recessive and that baby becomes an African. I'm half black. Ain't no such thing as half black. You don't mix white milk with chocolate milk and get half chocolate milk. When you ever see half chocolate milk? What kind of milk is this? It's half chocolate. Ain't no such thing as half chocolate. It's either chocolate or it ain't. It's either chocolate or it ain't. Everything is defined by the majority DNA. Everything is defined by the majority DNA. See, you call yourself biracial because you want that privilege that you'll never get. See, you say I'm mixed race. You want white people to hear. That's how you let white people know I'm a good Negro. That's how you let white folks know I'm acceptable. That's how you let white folks know I'm homogenized and pasteurized. I'm mixed race. You walk into a room looking just like Dr. Umar, some of you. Don't get me wrong. Most biracials look biracial. You can tell there's a mix. But guess what? A lot of y'all don't look no different than the rest of us. Frederick Douglass, once he became a man, as a child he looked mixed. As a man, Frederick Douglass looked like the rest of us. Some of y'all look just like me. So if you are obviously African, why would you call yourself mixed race? If you are obviously African, why would you call yourself mixed race? If you are obviously African, why would you say I'm mixed race? Because you're trying to send out a coded message to white folks. You're trying to send out a coded message to white folks that I am okay. I am one of y'all. And when white people identify you, they don't identify you as white. If they did, they would have never called you biracial in the first place, coon. But they identifying you as a nigga they could use. They identifying you as a coon they can exploit. They are identifying you as an agent within our community that can be used to destroy us. The African who calls himself biracial, the African who calls himself multiracial is an agent. He is an agent looking to get a deal. He's like a thirsty rapper looking for a record deal. An African calling himself mixed race is a thirsty coon looking for a deal from white supremacy to be paid to exploit his own people. And that's facts. And that's facts. And that's facts. You got a one-drop rule operating amongst white folks, and you talking about you half black. You got a one-drop rule operating. Look how asinine that is. Look at how unintelligent it is to say I'm half black, but the people you trying to claim with your half whiteness have a rule that if you have a single drop of African DNA, you are African. So if they got a rule that if you have a drop and you're claiming 50%, if they have a rule that a single drop makes you African and you claiming 50% African, what is the likelihood? What is the likelihood they're going to ever accept you as a member of that race? Ask Halle Berry. Ask Barack Obama. Ask Tiger Woods. When Tiger Woods was winning all those Masters, and one of his fellow golfers said he was going to bring watermelon and chicken. Watermelon and chicken. They didn't say he was Asian. They didn't say he was Kablan Asian. When Halle Berry went through the custody situation with her child, and we wish our sister well, and we wish our sister well. When Halle Berry went through the custody situation over her child with that white man, what did she say? Halle Berry went on record and said her baby's daddy, the white man, was calling her the N-word. He was calling her black bees. Halle Berry said this. Mariah Carey had similar stories. So you can't tell me calling yourself mixed race or biracial is going to help your ass anyway. It'll help them help you screw the rest of us over. It'll help them help you screw the rest of us over. See, we don't live in the Caribbean. See, if we lived in the Caribbean, it would be different. If we lived in the Caribbean, they have an octoroon, they have a quadroon, they have a mulatto. They have about 12 different races. When I go to Bahamas on June 30th, Bahamas, get ready. University of the Bahamas, Saturday, June 30th, the Prince will be in the building. God willing and ancestral guiding. Saturday, June 30th, University of the Bahamas is going to be crazy. I'm bringing the Garvey Thunder. I'm bringing the Garvey Thunder. I'm bringing the iron of Ogun because I am a son of Ogun. Not Wolverine, but the real one. Shango, not Thor, but the real one. Oya, not Storm, but the real one. Olokun, not Aquaman, but the real one. Obatala, not Charles Xavier, but the real one. So, If you want to study the politics of biracialism, see, we can't get too upset at Drake for what he did, because Drake, being raised by a white mother, was not probably raised with a black consciousness. And the fact that his father had a baby with a white woman suggests that he wasn't interested in raising his son with a black consciousness. This is true for Barack Obama. It's true for Halle Berry. It's true for any mixed race African. You got to remember now, if you're a mixed race African, it's not likely you were raised with a black consciousness. Because if your father was conscious, he would have never had a baby with the white woman. If your black mother was conscious, she would have never had a baby with the white man. So that's a contradiction in and of itself. So when these Africans grow up, the mixed race African, if they have a white mother, the white mother is more likely to mislead them and brainwash them into this multiracial identity, which does not exist anywhere in the world. Multiracial identity does not exist anywhere in the world. You either belong or you don't exist. You belong to something or you don't exist. Okay? Ain't no multiracial. That's somebody trying to run away from who the hell they are. Why is it you rarely, if ever, see white people call themselves multiracial? They do DNA tests. White people got Ancestry.com, just like you got AfricanAncestry.com. White people have multiple races in them. A lot of white people got Arab. They got a little African from the slave master raping their 4 times great grandma. Yes, white people have just as much mix as you. Oh, yes. Yes. European Americans have just as much mixed race blood as African Americans. Why don't they call themselves mixed race? Why do we call ourselves mixed race all the time and they never call themselves mixed race? Why don't white people call themselves mixed race? I'll tell you why. The reason white people don't call themselves mixed race because they're proud to be white. When you're proud to be who you are, you don't try to be something else. But Negroes. Shout out to my Afro Baricuas out there. I want to have an Afro-Latino conference. If you are Afro-Latino, Central South America, if you are Afro-Latino, Central South America, Caribbean, please add me on WhatsApp. If you are Afro-Latino, Central South American, and you are biologically African and psychologically African, and you are ready to participate in the freedom struggle, Afro-Latino, then hit me up on WhatsApp because we need to have a meeting. There needs to be a serious conversation between the African Latino and the African American to decide, are we going to work together or not? Has light skin supremacy and white Jesus destroyed you guys down there in the southern half of the world? Or are you ready to stand shoulder to shoulder with your other brothers and sisters? All right? Get at me. 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. In fact, I want to have an Afro-Latino convention in Central or South America. I want to have Venezuela, Brazil, Colombia. Is Africans all down there? It's time to unite. Marcus Garvey told me, finish my work, Ifa Tunde. Marcus Garvey said, finish my work, Ifa Tunde. He's calling from the grave, finish my work. 215-989-9858. Now, for those of you who are not mixed race, I want you to get off your high horse. For those of you who are not mixed race, I want you to get off your high horse. For those of you who are not mixed race, I want you to get off your high horse. And the reason I want you to get off your high horse, because some of you think you special because you ain't got a white mom or dad. But you practice the same mixed consciousness as our biracial brothers and sisters. You practice the same mixed up consciousness as our biracial brothers and sisters because you want to call yourself American. That's right. You are also mixed up. You half African and half American. In other words, you are a African. We got Africans, Africans, and mixed race Africans. Let me say it again. We got Africans, Africans, and mixed race Africans. We got Africans, those of us who know who we are, love who we are, don't want to be nothing else. And then we got African Americans, very little white blood in the family tree, but they want to claim America. They say, I am American. They can't wait to celebrate the 4th of July. They can't wait to celebrate the 4th of July. They can't wait to celebrate the 4th of July. You are a African. So there's Africans, there's Africans, and then there's mixed race Africans. Facts. We all have a split identity. If you suffer post-traumatic slavery disease, we all got a split identity. It's just that the mixed race African split identity is more organic and obvious because they're living with a white parent. The only difference between the split consciousness of a mixed race African, Africans, and Africans is the fact that for the mixed race African, it is more obvious and it is more organic because they are living with a white parent. But we all mix the hell up. We are all mixed the hell up. So don't be beating down the mixed race brothers and sisters saying you need to claim black. Your ass need to claim black. Look at Clarence Thomas. Look at Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. That man is a blue, black, purple African, and he don't want nothing to do with black folks. He ain't got a white mother or white father and has the audacity to be married to George Bush's cousin. Clarence Thomas is married to George Bush's cousin. Clarence Thomas was married by Rush Limbaugh. What kind of a self-hating coon will be married to the cousin of George Bush and be married by racist talk show host Rush Limbaugh? Are you crazy? And the answer is yes, he is. The only reason the mixed race African calls himself mixed race is he thinks he can gain a privilege with white people that will never come. And white people like to let y'all believe that they're going to give you a special privilege so they can use you as an agent against the rest of us. You say, Dr. Umar, why do I want to give up my whiteness? White people running shit. Dr. Umar, why do I want to give up my whiteness? White people in charge. Dr. Umar, that white side of me is going to get me through college. No, it's not. That white side of me going to get me the best job. No, it's not. It might make you manager of the blacks. Being biracial might make you the top coon, but it will never put you in charge of white folks. And that's what y'all need to understand. That's what y'all need to understand. No mixed race white person calls themselves mixed race. No mixed race Chinese person calls themselves mixed race. No mixed race Arab calls themselves mixed race. They are still Arab. They are still Chinese. They are still European. You do it. And the reason you do it is you hate the skin you're in. The reason you do it, you hate the skin that you are in. The reason you do it is you hate the skin that you are in. Brothers and sisters, if you want to study biracialism, if you really want to study biracialism, if you really want to study the multiracial agenda, the United States government deliberate attempt to biracialize the whole population towards extermination, to biracialize the whole population towards extermination, weaken the consciousness before we kill the gene. Weaken the consciousness by making everybody a light-skinned, biracial, confused supremacist, and then we kill them off without them even realizing that we don't even see them as part of us. That's the agenda, brothers and sisters. That's the agenda, brothers and sisters. That's the agenda, brothers and sisters. Some of y'all talking about the mixed race Africans, you out here bleaching your damn skin. You out here talking about the mixed race African, you got $500 worth of horsehair on your damn head. You out here with green and gray and blue contacts talking about, you know, a biracial sister who don't want to be black. Look at your ass. You skin bleach with a head full of weave, and you got green contacts in your damn eye, dating a white man, dating a white girl, talking about you don't trust biracials. I don't trust your cooning ass. Look at you. You got a damn white girlfriend talking about you don't trust biracial blacks. You just as bad as them. They don't have no control over them having a white parent. But you want to have babies. You want to create a whole new biracial family, and you got a nerve to be talking about somebody else. You want to create a whole new biracial family. You coons are so contradiction. I don't trust biracial blacks, and you wearing skin bleach. I don't trust biracial blacks, and you got a white Jesus in your house. I don't trust biracial blacks, and you got a head full of weave. I don't trust biracial blacks, and you having sex with a white boy about to have his damn baby. You just as bad as them. At least the mixed race African ain't got no control over the fact they got a white parent. You are volunteering to be white. You are volunteering to be white. You trying to create an artificial whiteness. Are you killing me? Are you killing me today?